Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. So before we jump into today's episode, if you're looking for fun and convenient continuing education contact hours, I have you covered. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 are now approved for CE contact hours. Yes, no more having to sit at your computer and watch a recorded webinar. You can listen to the Therapy Show episodes on your commute, on your lunch hour, in between sessions, while you work out, while you fold the laundry, while you cook dinner. And if you want to get the contact hour, just head over to my site, lisamustard.com, click on pod courses, and then click purchase. We think it's pretty simple and easy, yet if you have any issues with your purchase, just send us an email. Today's episode is really more like a virtual coffee talk between friends who also happen to be therapists. Jonathan Van Viegen currently lives in Japan, and I'm here in South Carolina. And while we may be miles and miles apart, we've been able to grow a friendship and professional relationship, and we connect on so many levels. We're both parents, we're both spouses, talk therapists, and we also are entrepreneurs who have chosen to build our businesses online and through the power of technology. And on today's episode, we talk about content creation and what really works, using video to grow your audience, using your talk therapy skills in other ways, and why talk therapists may want to consider coaching, and how you can network and grow your relationships on social media, and so much more. This is pretty unedited and as real as we get. We actually have the unedited and raw version of this up on the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard Facebook page. You can go over there and check out the video and see us actually in action. We hope you find value and feel free to join Jonathan's group as well as get in on any of his free upcoming trainings because they rock. Let's dive in. So let's talk about so you were asking me the question.
Do you ever stop and take a second to think about the fact that our job is to create content?
Mm-hmm.
So we, moving away from this fee for service, which is what most therapists do. And now we move into this, we're actually creating content, putting our own thoughts into either, a blog or a video or a podcast. It's pretty incredible.
It is incredible. And it's a pretty wild thought, actually. And I know I've shared with you that doing a podcast it's a lot of fun. And I never really thought about me putting content out there because I always wanted to be the person who did the interviewing and just brought the experts to the show. However, what I'm finding is that people want to hear from me on certain things. So I've started to, do solo episodes, which is really nerve-wracking, more so than doing a Facebook Live or a video. So that's interesting. So I know that's something that we want to talk about today is how to use a video to grow an audience.
Yeah.
So I definitely want for us to cover that. But yeah, I do find that wild. That's creating content is kind of what I'm thinking about all the time is who can I bring on the show? What value do they have? Can I turn this into a CEU?
Therapists need more CEUs on building an audience.
They totally do. And I've shifted my focus to include professional development. And I think within professional development is how to use social media correctly, ethically, responsibly, because here's the thing, and I know you agree with me, is that our ideal clients are getting on social media. They're getting on the internet to find information, right? Why not be that person they find? Don't let them find somebody else. Be there for them when they're looking for you. Want to even say maybe you planted that seed within me, and then I don't know. I know that's something that you and I have discussed a good bit. And everybody I'm talking to these days, I'm telling them you got to show up, and you have to put yourself out there, and video is the way to do it.
I think it's video. I also think it's podcast. I think so many therapists underestimate the power of a podcast as well, like what you're doing, because, we all forget that we're in the psychotherapy talk business. We're in the talk therapy business.
Right.
And, blogging is fantastic. I think if you want to be a great clinician and blog to your heart's content. And we all know how to write, like, we wouldn't get the degrees that we have. So I would absolutely blog. I think you need the writing skill 100% because you're going to mini blog and Facebook posts,
right,
or in LinkedIn, you're going to drop a kind of a longer, I call them like mini blog or long form posts. But so definitely start with the blog, because that, for a lot of us, that's really comfortable. It's easy. It's what we know. It's what we were trained in, writing papers and whatnot for our graduate training.
So many papers.
I know. But we absolutely need to use our voice, because people need to hear what it's like to interact with you and to have a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all in on video. I'm all in on IGTV. I'm all in on podcasts like you're doing. I actually think my job reaching out to therapists, because I have the Online Therapist Academy YouTube channel, and I'm starting to get amazing views on it. I only have, it's still a very small subscriber count. I've just started it. But the podcast, I feel like people can just listen to that in their car.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's so powerful. Like, if I was a therapist today, I'd either start a YouTube channel, or I'd probably lean more towards a podcast.
Oh, I still think, I'm a big believer and you should do one anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I just believe I talk to a lot of therapists who have thought about it and they're contemplating it. And it's one of those things that, I say, don't wait, just jump in and start creating content. I mean, you already have a ton of content you could then just take and put into a podcast format. I mean, you totally could do that, because I think a lot of people are doing that. And then we talk about repurposing content. So here's my idea. And this is why I need, support and help. Is there's so many different ways that it's overwhelming for me to think about repurposing content. Like, I could take the podcast and do a video, and then I could write a blog. And I know that, like, I was interviewing Joe Sanic a couple weeks back, and he talks a lot about repurposing content. And once you get into that mind frame of I create content, like, you see content everywhere. And so it's almost like you can't shut your brain off when it comes to like what you could share and what you could do. But I think podcasting, I mean, I'm in a couple groups on Facebook, and there's a podcast for everything. Like, there's podcasts on stuff I wouldn't even know that it exists, but they're getting so many downloads because they're so specific to their niche. And the niche, the niches are where the riches are, is what everybody says.
I've never heard that. I think that's a brilliant saying.
You've never heard that?
I feel like I may have heard it years ago, but I've totally forgotten it. But I think that's a brilliant way.
The riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
So be the first.
It's 100. Well, I totally agree, and I feel like you're a kindred spirit, and that's why I love being on this podcast, because everywhere I look, I see content opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I were in the middle of building this Online Therapist Academy, and we're creating the program, and we're revising it, and we're doing so much with it. But I feel like when the gloves are off, and if I could just focus on content, I could spend 24 hours a day just making content.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's more important, and this is why I go back to the evergreen content. I love IGTV, and I love social media posts, and I love Facebook posts. But you need the evergreen content, because my YouTube videos live forever on YouTube, and they're searchable. Mm-hmm. The same way your podcast is searchable. Mm-hmm. And so when you're creating content, you've got to, you do really well to make searchable content, because people really don't search Facebook all that much.
No.
We search it for friends, mm-hmm. but we don't search it for content in the same way that we would Google or YouTube.
Right. Yeah, so. I think that's why. So talk to us, talk to the listeners about your YouTube channel and how you kind of got that started, and why did you go in that direction? I mean, you just kind of shared a little bit, but I'd love for you to talk more about video and the power of it, sure. And whatever is really working for you. Well, and what's really working for you, because I think that's what people really want to know. They just want to know, like, okay, what is working, and then how do I do it too? And also, all that stuff.
First of all, my biggest suggestion is don't create any content or don't engage on social media unless you have one goal and one goal only, which is to get clients. Mm-hmm. If you're coming from a therapist, if you're just doing it to make friends and to entertain people, that's a totally different, reason to be on social media and to create content. But for most therapists, we have our friends, we do the work that we do, we love connecting with people, but we're really out there making content to either grow our business and move it online, or to attract our ideal client, or, to really build our authority in a niche, whatever it is. And so I always say for people, especially therapists, when you're getting into creating content, make sure you just have that plan to always have that goal in mind, where I'm creating content for the purpose of getting clients, attracting my clients in the niche where I'm building my authority. Mm-hmm. And so when you do that, the next logical step is, okay, how do I do that? And the way you've either got to be very prolific on social media, which is with Facebook Lives, IGTV, Instagram Lives, and whatnot, or you do that with your searchable content, and that's your blog post, your YouTube video, or your podcast. And I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. I'm a real big fan of the spoken word. So I tried a podcast early on, but I'm so not technical. Like I love making videos because I feel like I can get in front of the camera, and I've got a really funny story to tell you in a second. But starting a podcast, I remember the very first, I did 3 podcast episodes for the Online Therapist Academy podcast, I was calling it. And I started launching it, did the recordings, and I think I kind of told you I was getting this major backfeed in my mic, mm-hmm. so the person I was interviewing sounded amazing and I sounded terrible. Well, everyone I've spoken to said that's going to be the worst podcast episode. You can't even air that. I tried to pay someone to clean it up. They couldn't clean it up, and I was like, this is not working. So I stuck to my iPhone 8. I kept to my iPhone 8. And I started making videos, and I like making videos. I was doing it for Instagram. I was doing it when I was getting my coaching clients, because I pivoted. Like, I see therapists should use social media to get coaching clients. Mm-hmm. Actually, for the amount of work that we put into getting clients and the reach, like you're not going to, if you're a therapist and you're online, you're really not going to turn, and say you're practicing in New York, if you're an authority in your niche and you're great at what you do you really want to turn down someone from across the country that wants to work with you? Mm-hmm. So I was doing it in terms of coaching. So I was reaching the world with my coaching, and so people would reach out to me. So I got very comfortable making videos for Instagram and for Facebook, mainly for Instagram. And then for me, it was just the next logical step was to migrate over to YouTube. And so that's kind of where I started with YouTube. But
mm-hmm. No, I think that's wise. I like how I just want to interject and say that you're right. I think that as therapists, licensed therapists, we sometimes don't think to the coaching niche. We don't think that we can, or we can't pivot into that, but we totally can pivot into it because we have all the skills
totally,
necessary to pivot. I think what trips a lot of therapists up that I know is they go, well, how much do I charge? And what are the ethics? And how do I differentiate? Do I need to have a different type of business? Do I need to have different contracts? Yes, to all of those things. Like you do. And that's just part of it. But why not dip your toe in that pool if people are reaching out to you and they're in it, like I'm in South Carolina, I'm only licensed in South Carolina, but I've had coaching clients around the world.
Totally.
And if I just said, sorry, I would be missing out. Sure, like I think about the money, but I also think about, well, I want to, I got in this to help people.
Totally.
And so why can't I just take those skills and just have a different framework? And if I recognize they need therapy, then I'm having that talk with them.
Oh, absolutely. And you refer them out. I do that all the time.
Right.
Yeah,
so, I want therapists to remember that they are skilled in this. They just might need to kind of, if they want to go into the coaching, we'll talk to a therapist who is a coach like Jonathan and see how he did it. Because it's totally doable. So it's just my 2 cents.
It is so doable that we are under attack as therapists, because, in 5 years ago, we were talking about the efficacy of telehealth. People didn't even think that online therapy could it be as good as face-to-face. I actually think it's better because I don't see the emotionality with my clients. So I'm a couples therapist. So I don't see the same level of emotionality. So when I'm working with couples doing online couples therapy, we're actually really having great conversations because that emotionality isn't in the room in the same way that it would be when it was, face-to-face. And so I actually think the outcomes are better online. On top of that, I think 5 years from now, online therapy is going to be the default.
Oh, I do too.
And the reason why I say we're under attack is that in order to build your online business and to be good at online marketing, you've got to understand things like conversions, traffic, loading speeds of your website. You should only have a landing page or a funnel at the very least, but definitely not a big clunky website, which I preach about often. But if you don't have those skills and you don't understand that as a therapist, what's going to happen is when the world and our clients move online and we can't attract our clients because it costs $20 for an add-on to get a click through Google AdWords, we're going to get scared and we're going to jump to those big companies and start working for them for $10 for 1,000 words typed. So we are kind of under attack because we don't have that skill set to go out and be online marketers, yet our profession and our field is moving online. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think the coaching levels that playing field.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. And we also, I don't know about you, but from where I sit here in South Carolina, I went to a conference. I don't know if I told you this earlier in August, and it was a big conference. I mean, it was like 1,200 people probably. And I'm looking around the room and there's a shift in the demographics, the age of the average age of therapists. And the old guard, quote unquote, they're retiring. They're moving out. Now they're never going to use social media. They're never going to use online. They're never going to. And that's cool because they're like, but they're telling me, they're like, if I were you, and so me, Gen X, kind of like dipping my toe in this and kind of feeling it out, looking around the room, all these millennials, they want to use it. Like they want the lifestyle of being able to work where they want to work when they have Wi-Fi. I mean, that's just the way it's moving. And unfortunately, and I understand we have to be very ethically driven and HIPAA driven, but I don't know if it's our associations or our state licensing boards, they're just so behind the times with catching up to what we need to be doing. It's almost like we'll get to it. We'll just kind of let it, see what happens. And it's so like, come on, y'all need to be on the forefront of this and teaching therapists at conferences, professional development, courses on how to use this correctly and spending more time showing us how to, because what's going to happen is eventually, I might have a master's degree and I'm licensed, but I can now coach all over the world. What makes me want to keep my license? It's like, so it's just,
to the choir.
It's all gonna, it's just going to happen. And my biggest fear would be that those who aren't clinically trained and clinically sound will then start to come in and without the ethics, without the board, and just do, I don't want to say damage, but really could do some damage, I guess, because there are people out there that they maybe don't have the awareness that they need to be more ethically driven and more ethically sound. And I mean, that's just what I just worry about that, I do.
Oh, I couldn't agree more because the fact of it is that anyone can call themselves a coach. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think coaching is about transformation. Coaching is about, someone teaching a skill set or an interest that they have and sharing that gift and that talent with the world. And I think we all have that. I think as clinicians and certainly as psychotherapists, we are in a great advantage because when we put ourselves out there, and you live in arguably for entrepreneurs, the greatest country in the world. Mm. And the fact is that you can own multiple businesses. So there's nothing stopping you from being a psychotherapist and being a coach and owning a psychoeducational business or a training organization. You can own multiple businesses. And I would argue most therapists are really excited about that possibility. I was just doing some math for one of the trainings I'm going to be giving tomorrow. And, the fact is that I think it's $125 an hour to hit your 6-figure target. You got to see 28 clients a week. I mean, that's an awful lot of clients you got to see, plus all the paperwork and got to be all full self-paying and whatnot. And the fact is that I think that's the recipe for burnout. And I think therapists
totally.
have so many different talents and things they want to do. So why wouldn't you have an offer, and I would argue a high ticket offer, because that's what I preach and that's what I teach at the Online Therapist Academy, is to have a high ticket offer somewhere between 4 and 10K that you're going to give someone through a real program that's going to last 6, 8, 10 weeks. You can have a program that's 12 months a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's meant to bring you joy, bring you diversity, bring you something other than just psychotherapy, because it's hard to do 9 sessions a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're only making $60 a session because of co-pays or insurance, like, can you really do 8 sessions a day?
No.
And so, you know, it's just way too much.
No. And we're talking more and more about burnout. We're talking more and more about the energy that it takes to be present for a client. And there's so many things that go into that. I mean, and that's partly why I decided to pivot, is I was just burnt out. I mean, totally burnt out. And that's originally, I think, how you and I connected was you sent me, because I did a self-care IGTV video, and you reached out to me. Yeah. So can you give some examples of like what those high ticket evergreen, well, no, are they evergreen, or what does that look like? What are some of the examples of folks that have come to you and like you've helped them create that?
So it's about building. So I focus on, rather than giving clients information, it's about giving people a transformation. It's about helping people change the way they're living their lives. It's about interrupting those, you know, the patterns that we're all engaged in. And when you're doing coaching, you're attracting a completely different client than someone who's coming to heal deep emotional wounds or to process things. So you're working with a different client from the get-go.
Okay.
And it's about creating, and the reason why I love therapists building a high ticket offer and offering that out as a coaching program is that we've all got a unique language of change, a unique theory of change. We have interventions that we know that we use time and again that especially work with our ideal client. So I'm all about helping therapists niche down, get really good and really focused on building an offer that's high ticket, anywhere between 4, 6, 8 weeks. But it's a white glove offer. It's a white glove program. So it's not just, it can be evergreen. It can be portioned off in, a video course or some type of, automated, program, but it still needs to have that one-on-one component. It still needs that I'm on your speed dial. We are going through this program together. I care about your transformation at the end of 8 weeks. Your results and your outcomes are where I'm hanging my hat on. And so that's what I teach therapists to do, to build those high ticket offers. The plus side is that the price tag attached to that is much different than $80 an hour therapy. And so you're going out for 4K, 5K, 6K, and that is what your 8-week program's worth. And my question to therapists and coaches would be, how many of those clients would you need every single month to change your workload on the psychotherapy side? Like, could you do one of those, attract 1 or 2 of those clients a month? And, the world is, I think we're touching on $240 billion globally is the online mental health market. That's the global market. The US is leading the coaching market with $7 billion a year. I mean, we are well positioned to take advantage of some of those opportunities as clinicians. So that's what I teach anyway. That's my main goal.
Well, when you reached out to me the first time in email and I wrote you back, I was like, this sounds incredible. If the podcasting doesn't happen, then I'm going to do this with you, because I really love that idea. I mean, I want to free up my time. I want to create I want the time freedom. I want the flexibility. I want to be able to, be home with my kids more. And I think we're at a time and an age where it's totally doable because of technology and because of social media and because of, we're just becoming this, like, you might be in Japan, but hey, we're having this, we've connected and here we are, and we've created, this connection and friendship, and, it's really amazing. And then, so what comes from that? Like, you might say, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? And I did. You said, hey, is that Ernesto? And I was like, well, who is Ernesto? And I went looking for Ernesto, and I was like, I need to talk to this guy. And I did an interview with him. And I was like, because of Jonathan's suggestion, And then I was like, well, from there, I found some other people to talk to and bring them onto the podcast. And I think it's, we are not confined to I might be here in South Carolina, but I'm not confined to South Carolina,
Totally. And this is why for us, a high ticket coaching program as clinicians, because most of us have years, decades of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we know those theories of change. We know how to help people. It's what we do all the time. So we're not being disingenuous. We're coming with a good offer to help people. It's based on our own clinical experience. And when we combine that with the relationship building powers that we have, see, you have to understand as our marketing efforts are concerned, if we are not allowed to build a relationship with clients, if we can't even acknowledge who our client is outside the therapy room, and we all know that scene that plays off. Like, I used to do therapy in a small town, and I would see my clients in the supermarket, and I'd have to pretend that I didn't know them, right?
Right.
And meanwhile, I saw them that day or something like that in my therapy office. But the fact is that when you can't build a relationship with someone, you can't ask them for more money than $49 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what BetterHelp is doing. That's what Talkspace are doing. They're asking people to come get basic therapy with a clinician that they'll get matched with that they've never met before. And that's how they can sell their psychotherapy services. Well, if we're in the same boat, that means we have to compete on price,
mm-hmm.
because we're not allowed to compete with relationships. But
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Well, when you pivot, then we get to build those relationships. When you have a high ticket offer or a coaching program or an ebook or a course that most of us want to do anyway, and we offer that out to the world, we can now spend that time on social media. We can make those podcasts. We can make those videos. We can DM with clients. We can invite them to our Facebook group. We can engage with them. We can build relationships that lead them to purchase those products, because we will never have the same name recognition or same brand awareness that some of those big players have in the psychotherapy field. So I think we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot if we just expect to compete on price.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think that we get caught in that. That's where the mindset is. We have to think about the hourly rate. This episode of The Therapy Show is sponsored by my favorite fitness apparel, Zaya Active. I recently discovered Zaya Active when I went looking for high quality and premium workout clothes. Just like those luxury store and catalog brands, yet I wanted a budget-friendlier price tag. I love this brand because, number one, I live a very active lifestyle. I hit the gym about 5 days a week, plus I love to go for runs and long walks, which I consider to be my very important self-care and podcast listening time. Plus, the endorphins I get from my workouts keep me in my happy mental space. The clothes stay put, I'm not constantly pulling on my leggings or tugging on my sports bras, and they accentuate me in all the right places. And number two, when I work from home, I love to be comfortable in leggings, also known as yoga pants, and a tank top. Plus, I can transition to running out the door to pick up our girls or run errands while still looking put together in my athleisure styles. My favorite workout leggings are the light and tights, and my favorite everyday wear are the everywhere pants. I literally wear them everywhere, every day. I can even wear them to business meetings or client consultations. I can dress them up or down easily. Want to learn more? Head over to lisamustard.com and click on the Activewear page. You can learn all about Zaya Active, the mission, the clothes, and see if they are a fit for you and your active life. From weight training to running to Zumba to yoga to CrossFit to bar to walking to tennis, Zaya Active has you covered. And don't forget about the active men in your life. They have an amazing men's line, plus clothes for active kids too. That's Zaya like papaya active. So see my site for all the details. I'm blown away every time. And, but here's I got to back it up because, when I did private practice many moons ago, I was worried about rates because I didn't have that confidence in myself because I was new. I really had to, because I had to get the clients, I had to get the experience. So I had to pick a rate that people would be open to paying for a new therapist. But what I found was that they didn't care that I was a new therapist. If it didn't pan out, I mean, I would refer them to somebody else and they didn't mind going to pay a different rate, so it was my mindset of this
Totally.
is all I'm worth. And as you move through that, I'm going to raise my rates for $10. And it's just like, oh, well, as you become more and more experienced, of course you're going to raise your rates. And you start to realize how you value your time. And, and then you start to value your energy. It's not just your time, you start to value your energy. And that's really what it came down for me. When I realized that I was seeing all these clients all day long and I'd come home and I was so exhausted, but yet I cared about these people and I wanted to help them and I wanted to help them make change. But I also realized that this is going to be months. Like, it's not like three sessions and, oh, thank you, Lisa. That was great. I'm moving on with my life. I mean, a lot of clients are years. And, when I started to really recognize that and think that through as I've been in the field longer and longer, I was like, I don't think I want to commit to that. I personally don't know if I want to commit to that anymore. And that was I felt really guilty about that. I felt kind of ashamed about it. But I also had to realize, like, that's me. Like, why can't I be selfish and do what's right for me, which is I'm going to cut back. And I did. And it was the best thing ever. And I just had this conversation with Ernesto, actually talking about burnout and, your identity as a therapist. And he was saying, we kind of like the identity of a therapist. We kind of, there's a satisfaction that we are able to say, I'm a therapist. I'm a therapist. Well, I don't want to tell people anymore what I do because I don't want to really talk about it. It's funny how it has shifted. In the beginning, I was all like, oh, I'm a therapist and I help families and I help couples and I specialize in this. And now I'm like, I'm a podcaster. I do still work in the mental health field. And I enjoy that work. But it has shifted. So he was saying, instead of getting satisfaction from, yes, it's part of my identity, it's I am Lisa first and foremost. I wake up in the morning and I am Lisa. How do I want to show up in the world today? I don't have to show up as the therapist. Like, that's okay. But it has so much to do with, there's all, like, as therapists, we get into this work because he even said, he brought this up and it got me thinking, like, because we're kind of people pleasers and we like to help people and, we're curious and we're observant and people tell us we're good listeners. And so we're like, oh, those are great skills to have. So how do I pivot those skills into something that is, marketable, or I can make a living out of that? And we kind of enjoy that, or at least I did. I'll own it. Like, I enjoyed that for a number of years. Then I started to go, well, I have other skills that I want to explore and that I've honed. And, well, I want to use those now. And I want to go over here a little bit and play around and dip my toe in this pool. And then it's just kind of one day I was like, I don't want to do the old stuff anymore. I want to do this stuff. And it took me a little bit of time to kind of figure out how I wanted to pivot. I played around with a lot of different things before I picked this. And so I think I think that's part of the process is you're gonna play around a little bit. You're gonna maybe talk to Jonathan and, talk to him a little bit about what it is you want to do, where you want to go, kind of reverse engineer it a little bit, say, well, this is the lifestyle I want to live and this is how much I want to make. And then, you backtrack it and you say, okay, well, what is it that I need to do to get there? And what do I want to do to get there? Or what do I not want to do? Sometimes you show up and you go, okay, I know I don't want to do this. So that's even better. Sometimes I think.
Well, and I love everything you just said there because it makes me think that fear is one of the things that I think that stands in the way of a lot of us therapists from actually going out and taking this kind of action, especially the kind of action that you're talking about, saying, I'm going to back off. I'm going to live how I want to. I'm going to show up in the world the way I want to. I'm going to pivot and start a podcast or launch a course or get into coaching. And we coach our clients and we help our clients through their own fears. But, we can be those shoemakers' children that we don't necessarily do it within our own households. And I'm just here to say that my own experience, I left Canada in 2017. My wife and I, we sold everything we had, reduced a 3-bedroom home with a car and all the furniture. We sold everything, including our Christmas decorations, and brought it down to 4 carry-on suitcases and my clinical files and my income taxes that I had to keep.
Wow.
We left and we hit the road, and the first stop was Belize, and we're still traveling. I mean, I'm talking to you from Japan. And I remember in Mexico, we were about 4 months in, and this is about a year and a half ago, and I'd made $400 in my first month. I'd launched my first website, and it was dreadful. I heard crickets, and I remember sitting around the dining room table with my wife in there, just out in Isla Mujeres, a little tiny island off of Cancun. I don't know if people know where that is. It's a beautiful little island, but tears streaming down my face. And I was like, why did we sell? Why did I give up a six-figure? Like my last month in Canada, I think it was six figures, well into six figures, and sold it all to make $400 of clients that followed me online. Right. So they weren't even new clients. But then I realized that what needed to happen, what I was doing wrong, was I was just dropping posts and dropping videos and blogging for the sake of pushing content out there, but I wasn't building an audience. I wasn't engaging people, and I wasn't converting that audience. And so I've just kind of recently I was kind of trying to piece together what I did differently, but it's build an audience, engage an audience, and convert an audience. But the word that always comes back is that our audience as a clinician. And I didn't realize back then that people actually were consuming my content. People actually came for me. And I am not famous. I haven't written a Huffington Post blog. None of my blogs got picked up. I didn't even submit them. Maybe that's a bit of that fear, but I can say if I can do it, and I did it on the back of Instagram. So I grew an Instagram following. I connected. I poured my heart into that. And of course, I learned all the how-tos with internet marketing. I learned how to warm an audience, and and that's what I teach now. So I figured all that stuff out. But it wasn't that hard. It certainly wasn't a harder skill set to learn than becoming a clinician.
Right.
And if I could do it, if I could take my rinky-dink little couples dad blog posts that I was doing way back. You can go to jonathanvanviegen.com. I haven't posted in there in over a year now. Well, it's coming up to a year, which I should probably dust that website back off and start doing that. But if I can do it, I'm here to say that all of us, every single therapist listening to this podcast, can absolutely take their clinical knowledge and their skill set and the things that they love to do with their ideal client and turn that into a successful online business. And if I did it, anyone can do it. As you're doing it. And I think that we need to take that fear that we have, put it on the coffee table. Don't even acknowledge it. Just focus on getting a few more skills. So don't even try to process that fear. Don't even try to work through the fear. You don't even have to acknowledge or ignore it. Just put it down for a second and pick up a skill. Maybe start an opt-in, a freebie, a lead magnet. Start building that. Start, watch a couple YouTubes, listen to your podcast, listen to my YouTube videos. Just start consuming slowly and surely. You will build and develop those skills that will help you have that offer pivot the way that you want to pivot.
I think that's really wise. Instead of like ruminating on the fear and that I'm scared and I can't and who's going to listen to me, just take action and learn how to do something and then put it into action. Make sure that you actually follow through and put it out there, because so many people get stuck on the consuming information, but then they don't. And I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
I have to stop myself sometimes from like, okay, I don't need this course right now. That's in the future. Like I'll put that on the back burner. But when it comes to, the first step being grow an audience, I mean, your online therapist academy group is great because you give a lot of really great free stuff in that group. I love the one with the video challenge, having everybody, commit to doing video. I love the Instagram challenges that you do. And it might be crickets at first, but we all have to start somewhere. I mean, it's going to be crickets. It was crickets. It was crickets for me. Every time I started something new, the crickets have been there, but it's like every day showing up, consistently doing the do and continuing to learn a new skill or move forward in it. You honestly, it just kind of starts to pick up speed. And, the first time you sat with a client, think about that. Like I was so nervous and I felt like I was so inadequate and I was so ineffective and I was horrible, but the next time was so much better. And then you just you gain, and I guess what I'm getting at is you gain that confidence. And
Yeah.
how many times do we share that with our own clients? What did you do today or this week that scared you a little bit? Because that's where the growth is. That's where the change happens. What did you do a little bit what did you do differently this week that, maybe helped you with your confidence or whatever? I mean, it's the same thing for us. You've got to start building that audience. And I know that's something that I want to say was brought up on the episode I did with Joe, was just start creating content and build an audience. Just start doing it. And then start collecting emails. Start collecting those emails. Somehow start collecting emails.
Yeah.
And I might be kind of spewing out so many, we might be kind of talking like big ideas and things that people listening might not be quite just ready for. So let's maybe back it up and give like a couple tangible tips that would help them take action, like just get started and get going.
Well, I'm going to say Instagram, crickets, and engagement. And those three words, because you mentioned crickets, I'm all about Instagram, and engagement is essentially what most of us are after. Back in late August, Instagram went through an algorithm update. And so it kicked off a bunch of the third-party apps that were meant to grow engagement for people. It made it impossible. Well, it made it more challenging to have some like a remote social media manager for your account and whatnot. And so everyone started talking about, wow, I'm getting even less engagement on my posts, fewer likes, less people coming to visit me. And, it could be launching a podcast and hearing crickets. And if you're hearing crickets, that means that you're not doing your job. And that's a bit polarizing, because instead of me hearing crickets, I hear my keyboard. I hear myself DMing people.
Right.
I hear myself messaging people. I hear myself typing LinkedIn messages. And so anyone launching anything, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a post that you just put up on Instagram, you can send that post to people. You don't have to just drop it on and then wait for that engagement to come, because you'll wait a long time. That's the crickets and I see it so time and time again, that people put so much time and energy either into videos or into their podcasts or into their Instagram posts or Facebook posts, but they're not then following up with action, which is your keyboard. We can all be on that keyboard typing away. And I can't tell you how many DMs I've sent people, therapists, clients. Hey, are you interested? Would you want to listen to my? Tomorrow I'm doing my Instagram training again. It's a live webinar. This episode won't make it in time, but people, when they can join the group, they can be on the OTA group. They'll get a link. But I am literally one person at a time inviting people to my Instagram training tomorrow. And that is the hustle that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about. That's the hustle that we need to do. But the benefit is that I've seen growth, like the Online Therapist Academies. We've grown from 350 members to 700 members over the course of, I think 3 months. So we're adding about 150 members a month. Definitely not as fast as some of the self-care therapist groups, which is probably telling that we need some really good self-care on Facebook. But the difference, though, is that our group is about, the Online Therapist Academy is about where you come to learn the high-ticket method. So we're not like a community. It's about teaching therapists how to pivot and how to grow their businesses. But I would say the number one practical tip that I can give any therapist out there, whether you're making a blog post or you're publishing a blog post or Facebook article, is just get out there and contact people. I'm sure you're running into people that are commenting. Whether if you're an IG, you can be going over to your people in your target niche. You can be contacting influencers. You could send them DMs. You could just, and that's what you need to do. And you'll send out about 10 DMs before you get one response back. Mm-hmm. But I actually think, Lisa, you and I met because I DM'd you.
You did. You sent me an email.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is because your email was on Instagram and I just sent you an email.
I know. It's awesome.
And here we are now. I feel like when I'm in South Carolina, I've got a friend that I'm going
to Yay, come.
We don't realize that the power of one relationship. Mm-hmm. What if you found it? Because the other thing too is that we're building relationships. And if that person becomes a fan, I mean, what happens if you have 1,000 fans screaming your name?
Yeah.
You're going to be a wealthy person.
Yep. That's a Seth Godin thing, right? I think that's Seth
Is
Godin.
it?
I think that's
Is
Seth
it?
Godin.
I should Google that. Maybe I stole it from him without even knowing.
Well,
1,000
that's okay.
fans? Is that what it is?
It's something like all you need is 1,000 raving fans, or is it 100
Yeah.
raving? I mean, that's all you need. You don't have
It's all you
to.
need.
And I think that's people get so well. Everything you just. So you know what I'm going to do after we're done. Not only will this be a podcast episode, I'm going to put it up on Facebook. Like I'm gonna run this as a video on my Facebook page. So
Totally.
this goes up today. So maybe we can get some people to come join.
Oh yeah, I can drop.
Group.
Yeah,
so
I'll
we can
you.
like, and then I'll send it to you, and you can put it on YouTube if you want. On your YouTube channel. So like, I was just like, well, we need to get this out there sooner than later.
But I'll be hosting I kind of do my Instagram training every couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably run another one pretty soon. I think we've got about 35 people registered for the webinar tomorrow, but
cool.
But it's great. And that's the thing though, is that like, if let's say you're an anxiety coach, or whether you're a couples coach or a couples therapist, it doesn't, even therapists, if you, pick Round Rock, Texas, and you're a couples therapist, you can go into Instagram and you could type in the hashtag Round Rock, mm-hmm. and you can go and start liking some people's photos and commenting in your niche. If there's a mom, I'm sure there's got to be the hashtag Round Rock Moms, right?
Probably.
Like, can you not go into that hashtag and start DMing people and reaching out to people and talking and engaging? Mm-hmm. And I get it. A lot of us think it's salesy, it's markety, it's slimy, it's the stuff that we don't want to do. But, those big companies are doing it. Yeah. And, we still have rent, we still have bills to pay, the bank is going to want the mortgage payment every month. We've got to, this is how it's done. Yeah. Yeah. So,
and they don't teach any of this.
No, but I say when we take a second to look at how we change people's lives, and I love it because, when I get into these conversations, I'm a solution-focused brief therapist. That's all I do. It's all I could arguably say I do a bit of narrative therapy, but undoubtedly with every single therapist I speak to, it wouldn't take me more than 5 minutes for you to give me, a half a dozen examples of someone's life that you radically changed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're feeling pretty darn good about that. And so if you're great at what you do, are you really salesy? Right. Or are you just telling people about this amazing service that you provide people? Yeah. Yeah. So
that's so true. I mean, it's very true, and coaches are doing it. So why not therapists? I just, I shake my head because I know so many therapists locally that I talk to, and they just like, this scares them and they don't want to come off as salesy, or I'm like, well, I don't understand that. We're all, you have a very specific service. You help people. How can you not? Well, I'd rather a doctor referred them to me. Why? Because they're a doctor? Like they're referring people all day long to other services. Like, and you don't scoff at when the doctor refers you to somebody and, it's out of network, the pay that, I just shake my head. And if I was going in that direction, I would totally be signing up with you. And, because I know you take it from conception of idea to, all the way to getting it done. Like it's, helping me with the website, helping me with the funnel, helping me with the copy, the videos, everything. So, I see that as valuable. Like your service is so valuable. Why somebody need to spend weeks on YouTube but searching for how to do all these different, like piecing it together when you can just have someone who's been there, who's done it themselves and who's grown it and is now showing other therapists how they can recreate it themselves or walking.
It was a true eye opener. And I credit one of my best friends back in Canada. He's sold last year, I think he sold 400 homes in Canada. And so he was a high ticket salesperson, and he put me through this training and he said, Jonathan, this is how you got to do it. Mm-hmm. And now he's got 3 offices that sold those 400 homes. He didn't do them himself, sure. But it is just a skill set. It's reaching out and DMing. I'm going to give another example of what people do. If let's say you've got a blog post or you've got a YouTube video or a podcast episode that you're going to launch. So do not launch that cold. So if you're going to put it out there, do not do that. What you have to do is 2 or 3 days in advance, you need to go into Instagram or you need to go into Facebook and you need to ask some silly question. Do you like bacon and eggs, or do you like pancakes for breakfast? Are you sweet or savory? You do a silly poll. You do a couple polls like that. Or I need a book. Can you drop your favorite? What book is on your nightstand today? So you got to start getting engagement, because what's going to happen is 2 or 3 days later, when you actually go and launch your piece of content, it's going to get shown to the people that just engaged with your ultra viral question or poll that you just asked.
Right.
So your post is going to get seen more by the algorithms, and it's going to get presented more to your followers and to your audience, people like your Facebook page or your Instagram account. And that is how you're going to get increased engagement. So that's what we need to do. But those are some of the tricks that you learn. Yeah. And, it took me a couple years to learn it. I definitely don't wish that on anyone, because it was a lot of content consumption that I did.
Right.
But yeah, so if you can find a trusted mentor, I definitely say get yourself a trusted mentor. And there's lots of great therapists and lots of great coaches doing what I'm doing out there. So there's a bunch of us, and your podcast is another example of that. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just important that we have these talks and that we showcase other clinicians out there doing different and innovative and really effective work within their niche, because we need to know that this is doable. We need to know that it's possible. And, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing if I didn't have the inspiration from podcasters that I listen to. And I'm not just talking about therapists that are podcasters. I'm talking about women who have value and teach other things, like how to create a course or how to do photography. These are women that have learned something and they want to shorten the learning curve for the rest of us. And so they put the information out there. And, I wouldn't be, like I say all the time, I wouldn't be here if I didn't first start consuming and thinking bigger and dreaming bigger and, putting those fears on the coffee table and just, and really just like putting my head down and do everything that you've talked about today is pretty much my roadmap, it's not just, I put a video up on Facebook or an Instagram store, TV, IGTV. It's once I put it up, then I'm connecting with people. Then I'm sending messages. I'm working. We have to take that action as well. And I mean, everything you've shared today has just been awesome and so spot on. And I just appreciate you so much. Thanks for meeting me again virtually and having this chat. I mean, I call it coffee talk because I'm drinking my coffee, but where you are, it's evening time. So
it is.
It's been
although we are looking to go back pretty soon. I think we'll be back in North America soon. I don't know. I don't know how long we'll stay, but I'm kind of itching to spend some time in the US.
Ooh.
I'm hoping that we can make that happen too.
Yeah. Come to the Southeast.
We'll be back in Toronto pretty soon. So
have you been to the Southeast before? US?
Well, because I grew up in just outside of Buffalo, New York, like that's where I went to high school in Fort Erie, just across the border. Okay. So we would travel down and we would, much like the other snowbird Canadians, we'd drive through the Carolinas and head down to Florida and Myrtle Beach and whatnot.
Yeah, so. Myrtle Beach. And there's so much awesome stuff in South Carolina. In the Southeast, we're just real friendly and we say y'all and we're real slow.
I've kind of picked that up, the y'all. I type it in. It definitely, when I'm engaging in the Online Therapist Academy Facebook group, it's like, question for y'all. So
yeah, I know. I noticed that. So can people come and join? Like, that's a free group, right? Anybody can come and join.
Yeah, so anyone could join the Online Therapist Academy. So join the Facebook group. You can head on over to the Online Therapist Academy. Well, type that into YouTube and you can find the YouTube channel. It's growing nice and steadily. I'm definitely getting more views than subscribers, which is fun. It's only a couple months old. And yeah, and then you could also go to the onlinetherapistacademy.com, check my website. And that's where I kind of have my free training up for therapists. And we're going to kind of be relaunching a new training up there pretty soon. But other than that, I make myself available all the time. So I think I'm coming and talking with therapists kind of daily almost.
Yeah.
So,
and I want people to know you really mean that. Like you don't just say that. Like you are very engaged and you are very approachable and you give of your time really. So, I mean, that value of just sharing what you mean, you just do it. Like, it's so nice.
I think that's what coaching allows you to do. I think when you're coaching and you're making more money, you're so much more free with your time because you're not hard pressed getting paid $60 an hour. Like
there you go.
get what you deserve, and you're paid what you're worth, and that we should all be paid what we're worth. So
I get the warm fuzzies. I get the warm fuzzies because that's so important to me, as a, just see all my peers and I just want them to get to hit that space too, where they're less stressed and they're more free, and they're not so worried about getting back to the office to see that client. And I totally understand. And that
totally.
I'm so glad we connected and that you're here to help, because we need you. We need you, Jonathan.
Thank you. I love it. This is my, I love being able to connect with you and see your episodes. And I think you had Sherry on the episode.
Yes. Oh yeah. She's awesome.
So it's a pleasure to watch your podcast grow.
Well, thank you. This has been such a great interview. We're definitely going to put this up. I'm not waiting. I'm putting this up. So this has been so much fun.
Awesome.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.